In this episode,
Carl Jung, another raging lunatic. Anyone who's ever called themselves an introvert is quoting Jung.
Yeah.
You know? And most people have no idea that they're actually doing it. Extrovert is his as well. And so is the word complex. His name is still earning money today. You know,
Yes.
a few million people a year do the Myers-Briggs
bullshit. He says he knew from childhood that he was two persons.
Right? Number one and number two, right?
Right. Number one, ordinary schoolboy. Number two, old man who was close to nature and dreams and God and who had somehow been alive for a very long time.
What really fascinates me about both Jung and Freud is they both started off as real empirical scientists and both turned into batshit cray lunatics. So we did Freud last week.
We did.
And that was interesting.
Well, we got to blow him out of the water and all his bullshit, didn't we? So that was good.
So this week we'll do Carl Jung, another raging lunatic.
Raging.
Who's still, you know, quoted as some sort of psychology guru and stuff like that.
It just is so annoying. It's so annoying.
I mean, the thing is that anyone who's ever called themselves an introvert is quoting Jung.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And most people have no idea that they're actually doing it.
No.
And of course, the extrovert is his as well. He coined the pair of them. And so is the word complex, you know, like,
Right.
as in, you know, he's got a complex about his mother or he's got an inferiority complex or whatever. This is Carl Jung. And it's the same trick that Freud pulled, isn't it? You know, the vocabulary got into everybody's head and it stayed there long after the theory underneath it completely fell apart.
Right. Exactly.
And the thing is with Jung is his name is still earning money today. You know, a few million people a year do the Myers-Briggs bullshit, for example.
It angers me so much.
You know, and the company behind Myers-Briggs leads with this Jungian legacy on the website. And I suppose the test probably needs his name a great deal more than his ideas. So,
I would agree.
Well, we'll talk about Myers-Briggs later because you know it's one of my pet hates.
And you have passed that to me.
Good.
And now, as somebody that does construct, you know, screeners and profiles and stuff, I hate it even more. But yeah. So Jung's an interesting guy. He was born in July 1875 in Kessel, which is a really rural part of Thurgau in Switzerland. Is that how you say it?
Thurgau, yeah.
Thurgau in Switzerland. And his father was a pastor in the Swiss Reformed Church. And his mother is a member of the Preisvarek family. She was the daughter of the head of the Basel clergy, which I just in itself. So the church was basically on both sides of the family unit, but there was no real money to speak of. And
I mean, there never is there?
No, well, look at Freud, the same story, right?
Yeah, same story, yeah.
But just like Freud, household wasn't particularly healthy either. And when he was about 3, Carl, this is obviously, his mother was hospitalized for several months. And in his version, his telling of it, she came back depressed and she basically stayed that way. That was it.
Well, the thing is, his telling is most of what anybody's got for this particular part of his life, you know, because nearly every famous Jung story comes out of one particular book called Memories, Dreams, Reflections.
Right.
And that book is pretty much a trap because it reads like an autobiography, but isn't one, really, because it was actually put together by his secretary, a woman named Annie Ayla Yaffe, something like this.
Yes.
We are going to butcher names throughout this
them,
episode.
so we're not even going to apologise for it either.
So, we will try our best. By all means, correct us in the comments, but just know that there is going to be an awful lot of butchering throughout this episode.
Maybe as part of your engagement that will boost the algorithm, you could do a comment we could play like butchering bingo every time we mess up.
Every time we butcher a name,
you have to comment
or a place.
Yeah.
So anyway, what was I saying? So so basically, this woman basically wrote this book out of interviews when Jung was 82, and then there was an historian called Shamdasani, Sanu Shamdasani, who spent his entire career in these archives. What he showed is that the manuscript, this particular manuscript for this book, was edited on pretty much every page. So I mean, it was every single page was then whole chapters were dropped. His statements on Christianity were reworded, and the family and the publisher both demanded cuts to the book as well. So the hospitalization of the mother is corroborated. That definitely happened. But the depressed mother is his memory of her 80 years on, which has also been passed through a series of editors. It's the same warning for the family legend that his grandfather was the illegitimate son of Goethe, which even Jung himself called an annoying legend.
Wow.
Though he does seem to have rather enjoyed it being an annoying legend, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, no, fair. I can see why that would be fun, but yes. But the first 3 chapters are at least his own writing. And And what he chose to put in them is strange enough on its own anyway. He says he knew from childhood that he was 2 persons. Right?
Yes, number 1 and number 2, right?
Right. And number 1, right? I mean, it's okay. I'd love to know what the psychopathology is of that, but okay. Number 1
crazy.
Officially diagnosed. I'm going to get you a stamp. I got you one that said Russell approved. Now I'm going to get you one that says crazy, nuts, and then you can just put it on. But anyway, so you would go crazy. You could just walk around London stamping people. But
nutcase.
So 2 people. Number 1 was the ordinary schoolboy. Number 2 was an old man who was close to nature and dreams and God, and who had somehow been alive for a very long time. And he is completely matter of fact about it. He insists there was nothing ill in any of it, and that this was just how he was built. Right?
He did that with all of the stuff, didn't he?
Well, right.
Like a lot of his crazy was very matter of fact.
Well, is that not just the definition of crazy? Right.
I suppose.
In a way. What were we talking about earlier about derealization and psychosis? And same story, right? So, but it's number 2 who chose the career, apparently. So he read medicine at Basel, which is ordinary enough. But his doctoral dissertation was on the psychology of seances.
Yeah, he was hugely into the occult and spiritualism.
Right. But get this, the medium he was studying at the seances was his own cousin, who was, here we go, bing, 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 Eileen Price-Varick, right? Eileen. Oh, so close. Eileen, oh, not even. There we go. So the first piece of science that he ever produced was basically the family spiritualism written up as a medical thesis, which is bananas for science.
It is bananas, Then in December 1900, he joined the Burgholzli, which was the University Psychiatric Hospital in Zurich. Right. Under Eugene Bleuler, who was the man who coined the word schizophrenia. Huh. And this is I suppose the part of Jung's life that I suppose I would actually rate, because the work he did there was proper science. You know?
Right.
But this is what happened with Freud as well. They both started off as proper scientists.
How do you go from... Because I've done the complete reverse. Like, haven't I? You know, like,
I've
how
gone
do
from
you...
crazy to science.
Hang on. Hold that. But my need for evidence has just grown and grown and grown. Like, I'm unwilling to believe stuff just because someone says it anymore, right? Even if it fits all my nice boxes. But they've done the complete opposite of being so science-based and then to go
science-based,
to
evidence-based.
Lulu? La la woo-woo land. Like, what?
So,
anyways,
yeah, it's odd because they both started off as genuine empirical scientists, you know. He ran word association experiments where you read someone a list of words and they answer with the first thing that comes into their head. And you time every response with a stopwatch. And the thing is, the delays aren't random. They cluster around what he called a complex.
Right.
Which is a knot of emotionally charged material that the person can't report directly. And it's probably, I would say, his most respectable contribution to the field.
Right.
So, like, there was nothing cray-cray about this experiment. In fact, it was actually really interesting. You know, so this idea of the complex being centered around these blockages,
like the words that you share reveal the thing that is
the
at your root,
that it's hiding. So you know, he even wired up the test to a galvanometer with a Columbia neurologist. So now the galvanometer was something he invented himself. So now they're measuring the electrical responses of the skin while the words go past.
Interesting. And
in 1907, that's probably about as early as the physiology of emotion gets. So the galvanometer was a precursor to the lie detector. And he even used it to catch a thief. Money had gone missing at the hospital, and he ran the test on a wardress who was under suspicion. And the indicators lit up around the theft, and she confessed.
Wow. I know. Now,
that particular work, this particular thing, is one of the streams that fed the lie detector. But there is a fabulous irony there, because in 2003, the American National Research Council reviewed the polygraph evidence, and they found out that the science just doesn't hold up. So even the most respectable thing, I suppose, that he ever built kind of ended up feeding a machine that really doesn't work.
Goodness. Right. I mean, that's...
And the thing is, even the this thing of how... What you have to remember with the lie detector test is that the very notion of being hooked up to something that supposedly tells whether you're lying or telling the truth can be a huge motivator in confession.
Of course it can. Because as you were saying it, I was thinking this sort of psychological pressure of, well, the machine says I'm lying, so I must have done it. Because we can also convince ourselves, you only have to look at the false confession documentaries to see that people will lie. But even if for example, if you're being asked questions about something and they come to the question about, did you do this thing? Your heart rate is immediately going to rise anyway, isn't it? Because you know that the answer, you're going to get nervous about giving the right answer so that you don't flag the thing. It's so...
Regardless of whether the answer, you've done it or not, you're still going to have an elevation, because if you have done it, you're going to fear being caught. If you haven't done it, you're going to fear being accused.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was trying to say, but you said it a lot nicer. But while he was doing it, thanks. But while this was all kind of going on, he had got married to Emma, to Emma Rauschenbank. Anyway, for God's sake, this is just not going to go well for me at all. I'm going to lose this horribly. But in 1903, he had got married.
She was loaded.
Oh, really? Well, yes, sorry, of course, I did know this, because she's the heir to the IWC watch fortune, right? And so people were saying that she was the second richest heiress in Switzerland.
No,
So
loaded.
like properly loaded.
Yeah, loaded.
They went on to have 5 children, and then money stopped being a question for the rest of his life. So he's gone from
he didn't need
poverty
it
to
anymore.
extreme rich, which is
Not having to worry
interesting.
about money at all.
Which means he can go off into La La Land, but really, doesn't it?
Well, he did. He left, didn't he?
Well, yeah, he left the hospital in 1909 and then set up a private practice at Küsnacht. Is that right? Küsnacht.
Küsnacht, yeah.
He wasn't taking any sort of risk because he never really needed a salary. So it's not like me in
after
private
he got
practice.
married, no.
So he didn't need a salary or a university or really anybody's approval ever again. It's so dangerous. So dangerous.
Well, it's dangerous if you're a crazy. It's great if you're not.
Yeah.
You know? But it was these association studies that started the whole Freud business.
Right.
So in 1906, Jung sent Freud the published studies.
Right.
And that he was doing. And Freud wrote back and said, "Thank you very much. That's lovely." And I suppose the disagreement that eventually ends their friendship is actually starts in the first proper letter that Jung sent, because he tells Freud that the genesis of hysteria, bearing in mind that this was Freud's whole thing, though predominantly is not exclusively sexual. So basically, he was kind of saying, you know what, I really like you, have a look at this, but a lot of what you're doing sounds cray-cray.
No.
Now, bear in mind, they hadn't even met yet. And he's already qualifying the one idea that Freud himself would never, ever compromise. As far as Freud is concerned, everything is sexual related. But they do finally meet in Vienna in March 1907. And the famous story is that they talked for 13 hours straight.
Just like me and you.
I mean, yeah, but that might be true. But also, the only source is Jung himself 50 years later.
Right.
So, you know, we don't know whether they talked for 13 hours straight. I mean, they may have done. I don't know that it would be massively out of the question that you meet somebody for the first time and talk for 13 hours. But, you know, what is documented is what Freud wrote a month after, which he said, I could hope for no one better than yourself to continue and complete my work.
Oh, my God.
Now, bear in mind, they'd met once, Helen.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, I mean, if that's not love bombing, I don't know what is. You know?
Jinx. Exactly. Like full-on love bombing. And then in October of that year, Jung writes him an extraordinary letter, right? He says his
Is this the one where he basically calls Freud a god?
Essentially, yeah. Because so essentially he says his veneration for Freud has something of the character of a religious crush.
Right.
First of all, second of all, but that's his own phrase, and that's and that the feeling disgusts him because of its undeniable erotic undertone.
Right. Yeah.
So basically, he's like, I actually really fancy you, and I'd like to bounce on your cock, right?
Yeah. Basically, I mean, there is no evidence that they bounced on cock, but they definitely had an infatuation. Well, Jung had an infatuation with Freud, not so much the other way around.
Right. Well, so he then tells Freud where the feeling comes from, because as a boy, he says, he was the victim of a sexual assault by a man he had once worshipped. So from 1907, Freud knows that this man's devotion is bound up with the worst thing that has ever happened to him, and that it frightens him, right?
Right. And Freud, as far as I'm concerned, is just a prick.
Right. But, well, yes. His reply is the remarkable part, Freud's reply, because he sees it completely clearly. He writes back that a transference on a religious basis would strike me, and this is quoted, would strike me as most disastrous, that it could only end in apostasy. And then he makes Apostasy. Oh my God. This is the problem with reading, is that I don't get to hear the words, or I don't recognize. Anyway, whatever. And then he makes a promise. I shall do my best to show you that I am unfit to be an object of worship. So he's used the clinical word transference. He's predicted exactly how it will end, which is a falling away from the faith, and he's promised to refuse the worship.
Well, I mean, he did actually keep that promise for about a year, because
I was going to say, God, not for long.
Yeah, for about a year. Because in 1909, January 1909, he's writing, "If I am Moses, then you are Joshua, and will take possession of the promised land of psychiatry." I mean, their relationship is weird.
Oh, this is very...
And then that April, he goes one step further. You know, Jung had been to Vienna. And during an evening in Freud's study, he claimed that he could predict poltergeist noises from the bookcase on cue. And
are your eyes okay? Because I'm worried they're going to get sprayed.
I'm going to get eye strain.
Will you take you to Moreland's afterwards?
Yeah, you know. So Freud's letter then afterwards takes the prediction apart, and in the middle of doing that, he describes what he's done the same evening in his own words, in that he had formally adopted him as an eldest son. So Freud said, "I've formally adopted you as my eldest son and anointed you as my successor and crown prince." Like, this relationship is fucked.
Like, this is exactly what I see in a narcissistic family system. Golden child who is just tefled and everything slides off. They can't do anything
But he also tucked in a bit of Latin in there, in partibus in fidelium, which basically means in the land of unbelievers, because there was politics underneath this theology.
Right.
Freud was worried that psychoanalysis would get dismissed as a Jewish national affair. Because remember, Europe was really anti-Semitic at the time.
Yeah, I mean...
And Jung was Swiss, and he was Protestant, and he was a pastor's son.
Oh.
So he was useful.
Very.
So he was, I suppose, in Freud's way of looking at things, he was a Gentile crown prince for a Gentile world.
Right,
you know?
Right. Didn't he just say that he was fit to be unworshipped, though? Because, like, you couldn't cultivate a transference much harder than this if you tried, right? Like, adoption, anointing, these are exactly the religious terms he said would be disastrous. This is bananas. And he knew what the attachment was made of because Jung had told him. And yet he still made Jung's whole position dependent on it, or depend on it. Like, it's...
Yeah, I mean... I suppose you have to look at it from... Jung was useful in a time when Freud needed him, you know. But Jung accepted the crown anyway.
Right.
And he accepted it because it came with the backing of the most famous man in the field. I mean, Freud was massively famous at this stage.
Yeah.
But so you've got two people using the other, right?
Yeah.
You know, they are using each other. Both of them, I suppose, they both half know it. But
it's
then you call it kind of... I mean, Jung is using Freud for his reputation and his celebrity, and Freud is using Jung for the fact that he's not Jewish. So in an anti-Semitic Europe, we'll be able to legitimize psychoanalysis. But then they're calling it father and son on top, which is just weird to me, you know?
Well, actually, hang on, because let's throw in Freud's thing about Oedipal type relationships and the eroticism that he would see in that.
Well, that even makes it worse. Because
I know. But that's
Jung
like
just told him that he'd been abused.
Right.
You know, sexually abused. So if he is using this Oedipal theory, then Freud is manipulating him.
Well, duh. Freud manipulated everybody.
This is also true. But then Jung is intelligent enough to know he's being manipulated. So he must have got something out of it as well.
Well, you say that. You'd think I was intelligent enough to know that, and I wasn't. So...
I mean, I think they both got something out of it.
For sure. But I think Freud got a poster child, didn't he? That's not Jewish.
He did get a poster child that wasn't Jewish, yeah.
And Jung got somebody to validate all his internal shame and stuff. Oh, you're my hero.
Yeah. Anyway, they set up the International Psychoanalytical Association in 1910. And Jung was made the first president. And then the two of them spent 7 weeks together in America, analyzing each other's dreams, by the way.
Oh, my God.
On every day of the trip, according to Jung's account.
Oh,
yeah, I'm going to get eye strain. I'm going to get eye strain.
I think I might, even. Even I might. Can you imagine if I said to you, right, let's just sit down and discuss our dreams while we're away on some trip? Can you imagine if I said that? You'd have literally drop kicked me to the nearest train station / plane airport.
I mean, I wouldn't. I would have just left and went, I just have to go to the loo. And then you'd never see me.
I'd just see you shinning down a drain pipe. What's he doing? I get a call saying you're stuck in the window in the loo. Anyway, but so while all of this was this kind of crowning, this pedestaling was going on, there was a patient in the background, right?
Because, there was,
Yeah. There was this 19-year-old Russian girl called Sabina Spielrein. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
Right.
Spielrein. Oh, okay. And she arrived at the oh no, I see. I can't remember the name of. How do you pronounce it? Right. I'm just going to default to you for pronunciation. Right. Okay. In 1904,
which was the psychiatric hospital.
Right. Yeah. The one that he had started. So in 1904, and she was admitted with what they then called hysteria, and Jung made her his first extended test of Freud's method. And so she's one of the first people anywhere to be tested with psychoanalysis rather than just contained like they used to do. You just get thrown in. Right. And something in it worked. Well, I say that as far as we can tell anyway, because she was discharged within a year. And by 1908, she wasn't a patient anymore and she was a medical student, right? Which is quite a big thing at that point.
Oh, yeah, hugely.
Hugely.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. But that's when the relationship...
It's highly unlikely she had hysteria. She probably had anxiety or something.
Well, what would we call hysteria now?
Probably anxiety.
I was going to say extreme generalized anxiety or something. Yeah. Okay.
GAD maybe.
Yeah. Well, be interesting to see. But this is when the relationship turned into something else.
Borderline trait.
Borderline.
Maybe.
HPD?
Bipolar. Could be anything.
Maybe
hysteria is such a stupid word.
So stupid. Which is why it's hysterectomy, isn't it? Because they remove the hysteria from you. Because
like it's mental.
And ridiculous. Why can't they? Anyway,
he started shagging her.
Right.
He was shagging everyone.
Right. And her own word for what they did together was poetry. Right. Whether it was actually physically consummated is genuinely contested, right? And the diaries and the letters don't actually shed any light on it.
He was a dirtbag. He was a dirtbag. He shagged loads of people.
Okay. It's not like you to be so adamant when there's no actual evidence.
I don't like him.
Okay. I see. So when you don't like them, it's fine. We're just going to accept blind evidence. Okay, fine. As long as we all know where the bar is, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's just full bias. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, but there isn't any evidence, and there
was a film on this, wasn't there?
Right, there was, the spanking scenes in this film about it, which was called A Dangerous Method, were invented for that, for the screen. But the consummation question is almost the least of it, actually, because she had been his teenage patient, and he let it become a love affair, which is against all the rules.
Even if she wasn't she was 19. Even if she wasn't a teenager, you don't
shag a patient.
Have a love affair with
a
client. With a client.
No.
You just don't.
You just don't. But she was...
I thought there were ethics in therapy land.
Oh, look at you trying to find a way to just have a quick jab. Look at it.
Jab at therapy land. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
You all bang on okay, present company accepted.
Thank
you.
You
all bang on so much about ethics and unethical and ethics and ethics. And actually scratch below the surface. And half the therapists I've ever come in contact with have ethics issues.
Maybe we should do a study on this so that you actually have some evidence to back yourself up, because it annoys you so much.
I don't need evidence to back up.
Oh, okay, we're going with another bias.
Most therapists are nuts.
Look at you. This is very unlike you. Are you okay? Do we need to check you in somewhere? Like, what is going on? Anyway,
these topics we're doing.
I know they are triggering you.
Out of me.
Maybe we'll do attachment theory next, just to and polyvagal.
Christ.
Oh wait, what about tapping, EMDR stuff?
Oh.
What else? What else do you? Oh,
There's
somatic.
a new one out now called extreme tapping.
Is that with drumsticks? Like, what? How does that work?
I have no idea.
Not heard about
Somebody
this.
was explaining it to me as a supper party. That they were an extreme. They used extreme tapping for anxiety, and
I think that's called self-harm.
I just said, excuse me, I need to go to the loo.
and then we're shinning down the drain pipe.
Yeah, I never came back.
Brilliant. Okay, so go back. Let's just stop your trigger for a moment, and then we'll go back to this love affair. So in 1909, right? So he's had this love affair with this patient, but in 1909 the whole thing blew up because somebody.
Yeah, because the mother found out, didn't she?
Right. Well, someone wrote the mother an anonymous letter warning her about the relationship. Right. Bear in mind that the age that we're talking about, where women married as virgins, you did not have premarital sex. It was all against all the rules, and damn it, you were just lady of the night the moment. Anyway, but basically, someone wrote her mum this anonymous letter warning her about the relationship, and a lot of people, many of the scholars, suspect Emma Young.
They thought it was his wife who ratted him out, didn't they?
Right.
Yeah.
Which, kudos to her. I've done the same thing. Good.
I don't think it's ever been proven.
No, it hasn't ever been proven. But the mother then did actually write to Young, and we do have his reply. And in it, he explains that he had been free to stop being her daughter's doctor because he had never charged a fee. And,
you see, there's the therapy ethics.
I'm not.
She's not a real client because she doesn't pay. I'm just giving back.
Oh, God. This is going to be a video of two halves. It's going to be Paul destroying my entire profession, my entire career.
Your profession is fine. It's just many of the people in your profession shouldn't be in it.
The problem that we have in the UK is there is no fucking regulation. There's no agreed standard of what a therapist has to be. And we don't get educated around literal psychology and psychopathologies. And therefore, we learn about one thing and think it's everything.
Right. And then you have some psychotherapists who go out and learn it themselves, which is great. But then you have others who just use TikTok as their benchmark, or these fucking conferences you go to that spout shit.
Oh my God, the rage texting I did to you. And then he was like, I said, I think I'm going to leave. I can't bear this. You will stay. And I was like, what? What the fuck? If you want to know what you're arguing against, you have to know it. Well, which is why you know so much about religion, because you want to have the good argument. And I was just like, well, f*** you for making sense, and sat through the worst day of...
You did, didn't you?
It was the worst thing. And I think it will surprise... No, I'm going to tell people who it was, because I think it will surprise them. And actually, because some of his research has been debunked in the last couple of weeks, I'm quite pleased. It was Bessel van der Kolk who wrote The Body Keeps the Score. And it was the most biased, unevidenced bullshit that I have ever experienced. But that is a different conversation. So we go back to this. So he tells the mother that he had never charged a fee, and therefore he wasn't actually her doctor.
Technically wasn't her doctor.
Right, so that actually he could do whatever he liked. But then he offers to take the role back up on one condition, that he's paid for it. And his fee being 10 francs per consultation, right? And he advises her to choose the paid option as the more prudent one, right? And Bettelheim reviewed the whole affair later years later, rather, and his verdict on that letter was one word: inexcusable.
It is inexcusable.
Fully inexcusable. Like, could not agree more. Jesus.
Totally inexcusable. But you can actually watch him lie about her to Freud while it's actually happening. Because in March 1909, he describes her as a patient who, in his words, kicked up a vile scandal solely because I denied myself the pleasure of giving her a child. What the f***?
Denied myself the pleasure of giving her a child.
Yeah.
Is that a euphemism, or is... Wait, he didn't really think he was going to impregnate her? Like...
Well, what I read into that is that he denied himself the pleasure of f***ing her and making her pregnant. That's what I read into.
Well, I'm wondering if it was the denying of f***ing her, or if it was just literally the denial of his own narcissistic need to reproduce and sow his oats.
We're talking about two incredibly mentally ill people here.
Who are in charge of a lot of mentally ill people. It's incredibly
Who are in charge of a lot of mentally ill people, exactly.
Right.
So you've got Spielrein, who then writes to Freud herself. And Jung then has to come clean. So he then says, my action was a piece of knavery, which I reluctantly confess to you as my father. Now, knavery meaning, of course, dishonest and deceitful behavior. Such an odd word to use. Even in that time period.
I'm really interested about that. Right? Anyway, but she out-theorized the pair of them in the end, didn't she? Right?
She did, yeah. She became really quite something.
Yeah, she became one of the first women psychoanalysts anywhere. And Freud credited a paper of hers in a footnote for anticipating part of the death drive, right? And she analysed the young Jean Piaget in... Geneva. Piaget. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay. I should even have known that one as well. I feel, I don't know. Oh, well. In Geneva, who became the most famous child psychologist of the century, right?
Yeah.
Then she went home to Russia in 1923, and in 1942, see you next Tuesdays, a German death squad murdered her and her two daughters, and her papers only surfaced in 1977 by accident in a cellar in Geneva, which, I mean, it's just dreadfully young.
It is. It's tragic. Tragic. Yeah.
Tragic. And Emma Young could see where all of this was heading years before either of the men could. And in 1911, she wrote to Freud secretly without her husband knowing, which was quite brave given their relationship, you know.
Given their relationship, for sure, yeah.
From his behaviour, one could surmise that he might not be the most...
understanding of husbands.
Equal, you know, all those things, yeah. She asks Freud, do you not see in him the follower and fulfiller more than you need? And then says, doesn't one often give much because one wants to keep much, right? Hi, people pleasers, just FYI. Sorry. And then she begs him directly not to think of Carl with a father's feeling of he will grow, but I must dwindle. Again.
Yeah, but I mean, that's John the Baptist.
Right.
Talking about
religion.
Christ, isn't it? It is the religious thing. Because of all of this religious nonsense. Because everyone in this story keeps reaching for religious language, don't they?
Right. Yeah.
And none of them ever seem to notice that they're actually doing it.
Right.
This is the thing, you know?
Do you think they don't realise they're doing it? Because they do a lot.
They do. I mean, I can understand Jung reaching for it. He had batshit craziness on both sides of the family. Her, not so much. But then I suppose it's a sign of the times, isn't it?
I was about to say, is it not normal in the vernacular to
Maybe,
refer? Because it's very normal to
Yeah.
be religious, isn't it? So anyway, while she was writing that letter, Jung was publishing the book that actually broke things, you know. Van Lund, I can't say it. You're going to have to tell that. The book was the one about the symbol de libido, The symbol, the libido symbol thing.
Behandlungen und Symbole de libido.
Right, that one. Do you know when I read books about stuff like this, what I do is skip over those words. I just don't even try. Yeah, I just either I try and then I just go whatever. But I tend to just skip over them. But so forget it. I'm never going to get them right, and I don't care unless I do, and then I will. But what it does is redefine libido, right? So for Freud, libido is sexual energy, and the whole theory runs on it. The entire thing hangs on that idea. And Jung widens it out into general psychic energy. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking of you and your reaction reading something like that and just being like...
I've read it.
Oh, well, of course you have, because you have to know what you don't want. It's fine. But basically, this is life force, right? And Freud said straight out what that meant, that it struck at the sexual core of our psychological theories, right? He'd never actually changed his mind since that first letter. He'd just stopped saying it out loud for a few years. Yeah. And then in May 1912, Freud traveled to Kreuzlingen,
yeah.
Yes. On the Swiss, I can't even say Swiss now, side of the border to visit a colleague that was really seriously ill. And he didn't call on Jung while he was in the country, right? Like that is throwing some shade, right? That is proper shade. Jung took it as that, right? A deliberate snub and never really let it go, right? And then the end, when it finally came, took 3 letters. In December 1912. I mean,
it's so funny that they're breaking up over letter rather than WhatsApp, you know?
I know, right? Like, where's your text?
Today
just write him like...
Today it would be rage texting over WhatsApp.
But it's
now
like...
They're rage letter writing.
It should have arrived by now.
It's taking like 4 days to get to them.
I will never forget in the 2000s with my Nokia phone when you could turn on read receipts and you would get the read receipts. He's read it. And like it didn't help anything because it just made us more panicked because they'd read it and then not replied. Anyway, in 1912, Jung writes to Freud, and there's literally no politeness left in it, you know. Your technique of treating your pupils like patients is a blunder. Coming from Jung.
Yeah, because Freud used to use his students as guinea pigs, basically, as patients.
Right.
So Jung didn't think this was a good way of doing things.
I don't think Jung's in any position to talk about what one does with one's patients.
No, he's not.
Quite honestly.
No, he's not.
But he goes on to say, you produce, and this is where one could maybe see this might be an internal expression being projected onto an external situation, but you either produce slavish sons or impudent puppies. You remain on top as the father sitting pretty. Is he describing your own relationship with Freud, perhaps, Jung? And then he asks Freud directly, who's got the neuroses? I mean, it's laughable. And he finishes with an extraordinary offer, and he says he'll continue.
It's two lovers having a bitch fight.
Basically, clearly, right? But he says to Freud, I'll stand by you publicly, but privately, he'll start telling him in his letters what he really thinks of him.
Yeah. So basically, listen, in public, this is just work. I'll keep up the face.
It's a lavender marriage, isn't it?
I'm actually going, Jung is going to be Freud's beard. And in the next breath, he's saying, but you know what? Behind the scenes, I'm going to tell you you're talking shit.
I'm going to be evil to you, and I'm going to be mean. Do you think that's what people think you and I are? Like, behind the scenes, you're evil to me. Well, you do tell me I'm talking shit, but when I am, so...
Well, I was going to say, fair. I mean... They'd be right, because I do send messages going, no, this is bullshit.
Last night's conversation particularly rings, right. But
you're reading too much into it. No, bullshit.
Yeah, but it's true and it's okay. Anyway, the whole thing is Freud replies then by diagnosing him.
Deflection.
I mean, pure, not just deflection, devaluation. right? We're talking, that's a very narcissistic response to attack or whatever it might be. It's like, he writes basically that one who, while behaving abnormally, keeps shouting that he is normal, gives ground. Freud, pot kettle, but he gives ground for the suspicion that he lacks insight into his illness.
This is basically me think the lady doth protest too much.
Which one? Which one is the lady?
This is a serious cat fight.
It's
this
so
is a
funny.
Bitch fight between the two of them.
It's so funny. These like people who are supposed to be pinnacles of the psychology and all this thing.
Are two little bitches having a fight.
You're this, you're that. So basically, the answer to who's got the neurosis is you do, dressed up in the third person. And then Freud says, I propose that we abandon our personal relations entirely.
I'm not talking to you anymore.
Right? Also, the use of the word relations. Interesting.
Yeah. That would have been normal back at that time.
Also, I'm assuming these are all translated as well.
Right, so they would have been talking in
German.
German.
So we'll have lost a lot of what actually the meaning was and stuff. Right. Same with the Bible, because it was written in Greek, wasn't it, originally? So.
Right. Well, Aramaic to begin with.
Right.
And then translated
I thought it went. Yeah. So then Freud goes on, take your full freedom and spare me your supposed tokens of friendship. I don't want to be your friends. I don't want to. We're either together or we've broken up. It's not, there's nothing in between. Like, oh my God. Okay. And Jung's answer back to that is about 2 lines, right? You ready?
Go on.
I accede to your wish that we abandon our personal relations.
Fine then.
We should reenact this. For I never thrust my friendship on anyone. So we've moved from father and son to friendship, which is interesting in itself. But and then this is Jung still. He signs off with Hamlet. The rest is silence.
So dramatic. So dramatic.
Now knowing that, you cannot tell me that this isn't 2 queens having a bitch fight in a nightclub.
I mean, it definitely, it looks like 2 queens having a bitch fight. Somebody is pulling somebody's weave.
Right.
Yeah.
You kissed him and you said you never then.
Wigs have come off and are on the dance floor.
Right. The heels are off. The handbag's in the middle. And
the earrings have been taken out.
The hoops are out. Yeah. Okay. But what's really interesting, people always say that they split over the theory, but there's absolutely no science anywhere in those final letters at all.
No, this is a bitch fight.
Yeah, this
is a bitch fight.
Right. So nobody mentions libido once in those letters, right? It's a son telling the father, you kept me small. You shrunk me. You made me your puppet. You made me servitude to you. You're right. Not looking at their own part, actually, in that relationship too. But the father then telling the son, well, you were never well.
Yeah, you're nuts.
You're mental. And actually, it's all you. And the theory was the occasion. Obviously, it provoked the fight. Jung misstepped massively by publishing that book. But it was never what the fight was actually about, really.
No. I mean, the unwinding of it all took another year, though, didn't it? Because he resigned the journal editorship and the presidency of the thing that he'd been made, the Psychoanalyst Institute, and he resigned his lectureship in Zurich. So, so he cut ties massively. And Freud eventually wrote his own version of this into the record in 1914, where he said that Jung was incapable of tolerating the authority of another. This is 2 narcissistic bitches having a fight.
Right.
Because one trying to be one-upmanship. I'm the most important. No, you're the most important. No, I'm, this bullshit.
Basically, this is what everyone always asks me about, the 2 narcissists in a relationship. Here you are. It all works until one person, as long as one defers to the other. And then if that one decides actually they might have as much to offer on the table, it all falls apart. Anyway,
But
carry
then
on. Sorry.
privately, he celebrated being rid of what he called the last brutal sanctimonious young. Right? And
I mean,
like
that is so funny.
it's weird. And you know, the last letter in this whole correspondence is from Jung in 1923, and it's perfectly polite and courteous, and he actually refers a wealthy patient to Freud, and for Freud's medical authority, which is weird.
Is that like an equivalent of an olive branch? Here, have somebody who's got loads of money to treat.
I don't know, but it was very strange that they had this massive blow up, and then he refers them a client. He basically told him, "Listen, you talk a lot of shit."
Right.
Then Freud said to him, "Yeah, well, you're nuts." And then Jung says, "Here's a rich person and a client."
Yeah. Have a client.
Their relationship
It's
is
very
so
odd.
weird.
So odd.
So
Really
by the
weird.
end of 1913, Jung was 38 years old. So he's now out of the Freudian movement.
Right.
And so the strangest period of his life starts at this particular stage. So he's on a train journey in October of the same year, where he has the first of a series of waking visions. I am going to get eye strain.
Okay.
He has these waking visions on the train. And the first of a series of visions is a flood covering northern Europe, right?
Right.
So there's rubble and drowned bodies and the sea turning to blood. And at the time, he read this as evidence that he might be going mad. And his first interpretation of this was psychiatric. The premonition reading only arrived after August 1914 when the war broke out. And the war handed him a much better story.
He's retrofitted it.
Yeah,
right?
so the war handed him a much better story than I'm nuts.
Right, so it's much better. All right, it's not that I'm mad.
Psychotic.
It's actually that I'm psychic. I'm not psychotic. I'm psychotic.
Yeah,
psychic.
I now have premonitions.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, Phoebe.
Okay. and then he did something. Was that a Friends reference from you?
No, it was a Charmed reference.
Oh, so close. But also cool on the Charmed reference. But there we go. Yeah, I forgot about you and Charmed. But after that, he did something almost nobody in that position does. And he went looking for more.
Yeah,
right?
he did.
So
Yeah, he
most
did.
people have something like...
Actively.
Yeah. Most people have something like that. It scares the shit out of them. And they do everything they can.
Them.
Right, because it is terrifying.
Them.
It's utterly...
Yes.
I mean, my heart goes out to anybody that's experienced that. It is
absolutely terrifying.
Utterly awful. But he goes out trying to make it happen again. So from November 1913, he began deliberately inducing the visions.
Yes, he did.
Which in itself, but in the evenings, he would let the imagery come and then enter into it. And his phrase was, oh God, I'm sorry. I can feel all my peers, all my not colleagues, but, my peer group being like, how could she be so evil about Jung and Freud? And I'm like, listen to what we're talking about.
Yet.
No, my goodness. But his phrase, he would enter into these visions, and his phrase was, as into a drama, right? And he wrote every session down in black notebooks, and he had 7 of them. They were only published in 2020. So the experiences were voluntary, scheduled, and documented by the man having them.
Right. And intentional.
There's a slightly bad smell coming from that, but we'll maybe come to that. But he met figures in there who talked back to him.
Yes.
And the main one was Philemon, right?
Yeah.
An old man with the horns of a bull and the wings of a kingfisher.
Yes.
Which, when you think proportionally, how would he even have seen these wings? But there we are.
But he also had this old man, person 2, from childhood as well. Now, Philemon is not the same man, but I mean, when I was researching this, I was like, there must be correlation somewhere. There
yes, because he's person
somewhere.
1 and person 2, right?
Yeah,
so maybe it's his anyway. But Philemon taught him that thoughts are not things you make, they're things that happen to you, like animals in a forest. What?
Yeah. Like, we're talking nothingness here, basically, right?
Like, yeah.
And the thing is with these kind of hallucinations is not so much that he's having them, it's what he's doing with them. Right? So from 1915, he starts copying all of this into a huge folio book thing bound in red leather, which then becomes the Red Book, which was released, what?
It's only a few years ago, wasn't it?
5 or 6 years ago, something.
Yeah,
like
it was quite recent.
So the visions were transcribed in calligraphy, and they were illustrated in gouache. So like illumination, like a medieval manuscript. So, and he worked on this for about 15 years, and then he abandoned it in mid-sentence. Abandoned it. Yeah. Totally abandoned it. So he was doing all of this calligraphy. So he was taking all of his nutter butter and he was writing it into fabulous calligraphy and illuminations and gouache and all the rest of it. And he spent 15 years on it. And then mid-sentence he stopped, literally mid-sentence.
No, I understand. This is like me in an ADHD hyperfocus. Obsessed, dropped, never look at it again. Total.
For 15 years?
Yeah, I could do easy. Absolutely.
Mid-sentence?
Yeah. Something would have distracted, got up and walked away and been like, I can't be bothered.
Anyway,
Genuinely.
it sat in a bank vault for decades until it was published. I can't remember when it was published.
I think it was 2009, wasn't it?
Maybe so. It really wasn't that long ago.
No, it was,
because there were huge queues in New York when it was exhibited there.
Right.
Huge queues.
Massive.
And it was really expensive.
Really? I didn't know that.
Like £300 or something. Like really expensive.
I need that kind of a book deal. Anyway, there's
he's dead.
Yeah. I don't want to... Yeah, okay. There's stop my brain. There's also... a story from 1916, but caveat, it's only his account. So we know, no evidence. The doorbell started ringing with nobody at the door. I
can do that with my Ring doorbell.
I don't think they had those in 1916. I'm not sure. But
anyway, go on.
The house felt to him as if it were filled with spirits crying, "We've come back from Jerusalem where we found not what we sought." Right?
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
They're very specific spirits in the middle of Switzerland.
Truly, coming back from Jerusalem, does your Ring doorbell do that?
No, not that I'm aware of. But,
maybe that's a good thing. But he then wrote a thing called 7 Sermons to the Dead. 7 Sermons to the Dead in 3 evenings. After which he says, the house went quiet. So he got rid of, he saged his house by writing this book, basically.
By writing a book,
right,
yeah. Okay.
Right. And in that same year, he wrote the first formulations of nearly everything that now carries his name. The collective unconscious, the individuation, the persona, active imagination, all of it produced in the middle of the period everyone calls his breakdown.
Yeah, I don't know that I buy that, to be quite honest with you, Helen, because, the legend is that this was a psychotic breakdown, right?
Right.
That Jung went mad and came back with a theory. And, lots of serious people have put that in print, right? Mm-hmm. But the records survive, right? Shamdasani went through the appointment books and right through this entire so-called breakdown stage. Jung is seeing, on average, 5 patients a day in his private practice.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. He's also running a household with 5 children.
Well, he's not. Come on. He's not running.
He is, because, he's Okay, they're going to have maids and
right.
staff
He's going
and whatever.
home, and there are 5 children there who are being looked after by nannies and maids.
Regardless, he's not in a heap in a corner.
No, exactly. That
Right?
is a more important point. Yes.
You know, he keeps publishing, and he's a serving officer in the Swiss Army. So, yeah. So in 1917 and 1918, he's posted to Chateau d'Ay, in command of the interned British soldiers. You know, the British soldiers that were interned there. And on that posting, he drew a small pencil mandala most mornings in his army notebook. Do you know what a mandala is? It's
yeah.
really intricate.
They're beautiful. I'd love to be able to draw them. Yeah.
Right. So he wrote one of them into his notebook most mornings. And there's 27 of them, and each one of them are dated.
Right.
It doesn't sound like somebody with psychosis to me.
No. And almost nobody who diagnosed him ever dealt with that record. Right.
No.
Winnicott, who I'm sure, I wonder how you feel about Winnicott. Do you know much about him?
I know very little about him.
Oh, he did an awful lot of damage and to basically said that autism was caused by frigid mothers.
Oh, yes.
He's also the one that said you only need to meet the needs of a child 3 times out of 10 to create secure attachment.
Yes.
Right. But
lunatic.
Yeah, maybe we should do him. He reviewed the memoir in 1964 and diagnosed childhood schizophrenia. I mean, these men with the audacity of diagnosing. I mean, look at Freud and his letter diagnosis, right? Off the back of a book, a memoir, a diagnosis of an edited book by a man who never met him, which is his own field now calls a misdiagnosis, right?
Good.
The more useful idea comes from Henri Ellenberger, who was a psychiatrist and a historian. And a
historian, yeah.
Yeah, he called this sort of episode a kind of creative illness, which is a crisis that follows years of obsession with a problem, runs alongside normal work and family life, and ends in the conviction that you've discovered a great truth. Feels a little bit like conspiracy theory, but
no, it's not. You see this in a number of things, you know, if you're and you see it very much in people who are very obsessed with things. Elon Musk might be a prime example of this.
Well, he applied it to Freud and Jung both, right? And
that would make sense.
But it only works if the person keeps functioning, which is exactly what the appointment books show.
They are functioning,
isn't it?
You know, and somebody like Elon Musk is functioning, and somebody like Trump is functioning. So, yeah.
Sure, okay. I mean...
But Jung, during this breakdown that everybody thinks he has, no.
Okay. Well...
I'm not buying it.
The experiences themselves are less exotic than the mythology, right?
Right,
I don't buy this anyway either, because he's deliberately inducing waking imagery in a dissociative state. How, what? This isn't... At times that he chose, right? With the ability to stop them. He could stop and start hallucinations.
Who do you know can go into psychosis and have psychotic episodes and visual hallucinations and auditory hallucinations on cue?
Well, only people that take mushrooms. LSD.
Well,
I mean, that's
they're still taking a drug.
They're taking a drug, and they don't actually have control over what they see.
Nor are they taking loads of notes.
No, and more important than anything, his reality testing stays intact throughout this whole period, right?
Right.
He kept asking himself whether he was going mad. His phrase was menaced by a psychosis. And the asking is itself part of the answer, because losing your grip on reality usually means losing the ability to put that question. Right. You know, and there's really solid research on perfectly healthy people who hear voices and see vivid imagery, and Jung sits at the far end of that continuum. Far end.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it sounds very Mother Teresa-like, doesn't it?
Fully.
You know, there really is a a similarity there.
Yeah, huge, absolutely.
So if you put him against, for example, ICD-11, the criteria for psychotic disorder, you want impaired reality testing, and usually a collapse in functioning. And this record shows the opposite of both of that, right?
Right.
And just as you said, these were voluntary and they were scheduled. Who the schedules these things?
Who would want to, apart from anything else?
Well, unless you're, you know, he took copious amounts of notes. I mean, psychotic people don't tend to file their hallucinations, you know, especially so methodically. So, no, he wasn't psychotic. But I have to be honest with you, in my mind, that makes what he did next even worse, because a man who's ill would at least have an excuse.
Right, exactly.
Jung didn't have an excuse. He was sane. And he took the content of his own evening imaginings, his made-up shit, you know, his own private cast of characters. You know, he should have written fiction.
Basically, he should have written like The Lord of the Rings, really.
Well, exactly, or Harry Potter or something. But he went ahead and declared these all universal structures of the human mind.
I mean, it's just...
And he called it an empirical discovery, which of course is lunacy.
Oh.
So...
That's painful.
I mean, the self-experiment was honest work, I suppose, in its way. He was experimenting on himself. Many academics do.
Yeah, okay.
But then publishing your own imagination as the architecture of everybody else's mind, that's an entirely different thing, Helen. An entirely different thing.
I agree. It's very Freudian
and to have so many people nowadays hanging on these fabricated, made-up bullshit. This is what annoys me so much.
I'm with you on it. It's no different than what Freud did with the projection of his own experience. That, I think like this, so everyone won. And he knew exactly how it looked because he said so twice at the end of his life, right? In the epilogue that he added to the Red Book in 1959, it says, to the superficial observer, it will appear like madness. I mean, if only it were to the superficial observer, because none of us would be buying it, would we, if it was true? But there we are.
Right.
And then in 1957, talking to Yaffe, the years when I pursued the inner images were the most important time of my life, right? The numinous beginning, which contained everything. These are his words, right? And the second woman in the pattern arrives in 1910. And Toni Wolff, she came to him as a patient. She was 21. And she became his closest confidant through the whole Red Book period. And then, of course, his mistress.
Of course.
Of course.
Of course.
I mean, why your patient is becoming your closest confidant in the first place, but there we are. And she stayed in his life until she died in 1953. And people reportedly called her his second wife, right? This arrangement they had a routine, you know. Tony at Sunday dinner with Emma and the children.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine? Can you freaking imagine? You know, and then Jung was visiting her on Wednesdays. And when she died, he destroyed their correspondence, both sides of it. And he didn't go to her funeral.
Why not?
Right? The reported reason is that he was ill, and anything past that is speculation, but the destruction isn't speculation, and the letters are just gone.
Right, so he was hiding something, like the Epstein files.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's exactly the same. So but look at the whole shape of him by now, right? You've got the grandiosity, a man who believes the structure of every human mind that ever existed was revealed to him personally. I mean, this is God.
In dreams.
What was his name? Joseph Smith, right?
All right.
It's revealed to him personally in his study in the evenings. The entitlement, two patients who became lovers, a wife and a mistress, managed into a weekly timetable. But, you know, his mistress coming in for Sunday lunch. Or dinner or whatever.
That's wild to me.
Insane. And then the certainty, which never wavers anywhere in the record.
Well, it never does with narcissists, does it?
No, it's just absolute conviction. And, you know, what do you think, really? Is there enough there? Because I know you and I have these conversations, but is there enough there for a personality disorder or not?
I mean, the traits are everywhere in the documents, aren't they? You know,
exactly.
Grandiosity, the entitlement, the certainty. But the thing is, to make a diagnosis, especially if you're using ICD, you want a lot more than traits. So it wants things like pervasive impairment in how the self works and how relationship works across contexts over years, things like this. And this record argues the other way, you know. He did have a marriage that lasted more than 50 years. Now, doesn't matter whether it was happy or not, but it was there, right?
Yeah, but was he there?
But it doesn't matter, Helen. Whatever you make of its arrangements, you know, the marriage lasted for 50 years. He had a practice that he ran every day for decades. You know, institutions that held together around him his whole life. You know? So he didn't have problems making and keeping friends. The thing
Freud?
is,
The closer they get?
Jung. Okay, that's one friend. One friend.
That we know.
But, I mean, people who actually have a personality disorder usually can't sustain any of that. So, yeah, I mean, he had the traits. Clearly, he had the traits.
Right. Good.
And clearly they cost the people around him a great deal. But I don't know that it would necessarily get to
a full diagnosis.
Yeah, the disorder threshold.
Okay.
The thing is, though, while he was sitting in his study talking to Philemon, the world wasn't backing away from him. It was actually organizing itself around him, right? So in 1916, a club formed in Zurich around him and his psychology, called the Psychological Club.
Jeez, can you imagine the reinforcement of that? Jeez.
It was funded with a gift of 360,000 Swiss francs, which was an unimaginable amount of money.
That is, wow.
From an American heiress called Edith Rockefeller McCormick. So 3 years after the break with Freud, he had... I mean, he's every influencer's dream, isn't he? Because he had a building, he had a membership, and he had sponsors. Like he was living the influencer dream.
I mean, is he posting regularly? Is that what's going on?
I mean, he is actually. He's publishing very regularly. But and Toni Wolff, the mistress, was a founding member, and actually from 1928, she was actually the president of this club. So. She'd been a patient, then she'd been a mistress, and now she was running his institution.
Jesus.
Right? So she's fairly embedded there, isn't she?
Like,
but there's a German sociologist called Max Weber who worked out how this kind of authority holds together. And the crucial thing he saw is that charisma isn't a property of the leader, it's a relationship. It only exists because the followers keep recognizing it. So when the leader dies, the movement either dies with him or turns into an institution and certification and stuff like that, which is exactly what happens with Carl Jung. So the charismatic, and it also happened with Scientology. So the charismatic leader died and the cult of personality, I suppose, turned into an institution. But what Jung and, take Scientology, for example, have in common is education and moving forward and bettering yourself and knowing yourself and all this sort of shit. So there's a similarity there between these two as well. I mean, the similarities between all of these crazy things.
I mean,
which is wild when you start to see the patterns, you know?
Truly.
And then you have Anthony Starr, who was a psychiatrist. He wrote a book about gurus in the 1990s called Feet of Clay.
Right.
And his line about the guru breed was that no one knows in the sense that Gurdjieff or Rajneesh or Jung believed that they knew and were supposed to know by their disciples. So basically, he mentioned Jung as a guru.
Jeez.
A fake guru, basically.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, okay.
So the certainty is what people are buying. And Jung himself is never doubted at all.
Wow.
You know? So then in 1921, he published Psychological Types. This is what most people will recognize.
Right.
So 2 attitudes, introversion and extroversion, and 4 functions, thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. And this is what Myers-Briggs was eventually built out of, this book. Right? For Jung himself, these were tendencies. They were fluid things, you know. A person leans one way and the lean can shift. He actually himself never put people into boxes. Those boxes came much later, and they came from other people. They did not come from Jung.
Well, people do what they do, don't they? And
right. So
decide something and run with it.
But anyway, he wrote this particular book. But anyway, Hitler comes to power in January 1933. And in June of that year, Jung takes a job. And the job is the presidency of the General Medical Society for Psychotherapy.
Right.
And with it comes the editorship of its journal, which is the Zentralblatt für Psychotherapy, which is basically the Journal of Psychotherapy, Central Psychotherapy. So the German section of that society was run by a psychiatrist called Matthias Göring,
Right.
who was a cousin of Hermann Göring. And in December 1933, the journal with Jung's name on it as editor carried Göring's declaration committing psychotherapists to the principles of Mein Kampf. So he wrote this whole forward that, you know, therapists now had to, Mein Kampf was
Hitler's
part of their Bible. So Jung said afterwards that he hadn't known it would run in the international issue, and that may even be true, we don't know, because his own word is the only source that we have, but nevertheless it ran. It ran.
Right. And then 1934.
Telling people that psychotherapists now subscribe to the theories and ideals of Mein Kampf.
It's terrifying. Utterly terrifying. And then 1934 is the year that nothing can excuse, because he published a signed essay of his own, The State of Psychotherapy Today. And these sentences are his.
Right.
The Jew, who is something of a nomad, has never yet created a cultural form of his own, and as far as we can see, never will. Right, that's one.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, Freud was Jewish, right? So, anyway, there's, you know, and then the Aryan unconscious has a higher potential than the Jewish.
Well, this is the defense of most anti-Semites or racists, isn't it? I have Jewish friends, I have black friends.
Oh, that as a defense about being racist or anti-Semitic or any of those things is the worst defense of the world. Just because you have a friend that is of that race or background.
I'm not homophobic, I have a gay friend. I'm not black, I'm not racist, I have a black friend. Yeah,
I mean, it's,
you know.
Right. But, you know, he makes these statements about basically Aryan supremacy, white supremacy, and that the differences between Germanic and Jewish psychology shall no longer be glossed over, is one of the other things. He published that while Jewish doctors and analysts were being driven out of German professional life. His colleagues were losing the right to practice while he was writing it.
And I mean, he was called on it at the time. So, I mean, we're not saying this with hindsight. You know, a Swiss analyst asked in print in early 1934 whether Jung had been brought into line with the Nazis. And Jung's published defense was that he'd held his views about racial psychology since long before 1933, which is true. And that's not the defense he seems to think it was.
No.
You know? I've believed this long before the Nazis. Okay.
That's
I'm
not
not
a flex.
sure that that's the flex you think it is. You know? I think probably the honest way of looking at why he took the job is smaller and uglier than ideology. Because with psychoanalysis banned as Jewish science, the field was actually being cleared for his own school to take over, his own school of thought. And Jungian theory, which essentially it did. Jungian theory did take over from Freudian theory. And still, I think Jung is probably, his theories or his hypothesis or his bullshit is probably more well known than Freud's.
I agree, without doubt.
So when that chance was put in front of him, he didn't say no. Now, in fairness, he did use the job to protect people. So he reorganized the society internationally so that German Jewish psychotherapists thrown out of the Nazified German section could stay in as individual members.
Right.
And now that's not coming from his defenders. That's actually confirmed. This is not like, we have people who hated him saying he did this.
Right. Okay.
So, like, it's confirmed, for example, by Jeffrey Cox, who wrote the standard history of psychotherapy under the Third Reich. And he was no lover of Jung at all.
Right.
So in 1934 at a Congress in Germany, he actually paid public homage to Freud. So that was really brave, because at the time, Freud being a Jew, Freud's name was an anathema there.
Right.
So even though they weren't friends anymore, they didn't like each other, whatever, he still paid tribute to him.
As a protection.
So that was brave. That was brave.
There's going to be something self-serving in it, but
maybe.
Well, or there's still some kind of bond that he's anyway. In 1936, he published an essay, didn't he, reading the whole Nazi movement as a possession by Wotan. The old
Germanic storm god.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
People still argue whether that essay is a diagnosis of Germany or a fascination with it. And the honest answer really is that it reads like both, I would say.
I think so. I'd say it would be both, yeah.
Yeah. I think in 1939, he described Hitler in an interview as a medicine man, a spiritual vessel, a demi-deity, or even better, a myth, which is diagnosis again, and again, not condemnation. I
don't know that I'd read too much into that, because look at what people do with Trump. So they don't agree with him, but then publicly they say shit like this in public. Kim Jong-un, the same thing.
Yeah, okay. I can get on board with that idea that it's almost a self-protection.
Vladimir Putin, the same thing. So
it's a protection, but isn't it? Because you say it out loud, and okay. Well, later in that year, he resigned the presidency, and he said afterwards the Gestapo had blacklisted him and his books were banned, which may well be true, but both claims, of course, rest entirely on Jung
saying so. Yeah, because, the thing is, there's no evidence of that.
No. But it makes him a nice little victim, doesn't he?
Well, it does make him a nice little victim. It is good PR,
Yeah.
I mean, to be quite honest with you, in my opinion, the hardest detail to forgive didn't actually happen in Germany at all. It happened in his own club in Zurich, the psychological club. And this club ran a quota on Jewish members, right? So 10% for members, 25% for guests. So there was a quota on how many Jews were allowed to join this club. Wow. And bearing in mind, Switzerland was neutral.
I was going to,
And so there was no reason for this.
No.
None. And in 1944, with the Holocaust at its absolute height, somebody put it in writing in a secret appendix to the club's rules, this Jewish quota, and it stayed buried there until a researcher dug it up in the 1980s. Now, nobody has ever shown that Jung wrote the rule himself, but I'm not giving him a get-out-of-jail-free pass.
It wasn't done in that red book calligraphy. He's like half sentence.
Jung was really controlling.
Right. Yes.
especially of things that had his name and identity attached to it. He was incredibly domineering and dominating about almost everything to do with that club. And the rule was in the club's files and published files.
Right.
And he sat at the center of it. So I'm not buying that he didn't know about it.
No.
Or didn't put it in place. You know?
He's just a dodgy. Wow. When the war ended, he wrote about German collective guilt. about experiencing how painfully wide is the scope of the psychological concept of collective guilt. Right? And his critics did notice that the man writing that had his own 1934 to account for, as we've seen. And the only apology he ever made, as far as anyone ever knows, happened in private in October 1946. Right,
because he never made a public one.
Right.
Never.
Leo Beck, who was a rabbi that had survived
Theresienstadt.
Sorry. Theresienstadt. If you want to understand how Paul can pronounce all of this and I can't, you need to go and watch the video where, I can't remember his name, but he was the German that was actually, I think he was Austrian, that went over to the States and he was killing people to write his own. He was a journalist and he had been convicted.
Oh, that's right.
Do you remember?
That's right.
And you translate the video.
They hired him to write a story about.
And he kept providing his own stories.
And he was providing his own material.
Yeah. So if you want to understand how Paul is so good at this, it's because he speaks German, and you can see him do it in that video. But Theresienstadt, right? Theresienstadt.
Theresienstadt.
Right. The two men met in Zurich for 2 hours, and what Jung said to him in German. Oh, I don't want to say it in German, but I'll try.
He basically said, "I f***ed up."
Okay. The translation's a little different, which is basic. It's, I slipped up, but we only know because Beck told.
That's the polite translation.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Oh, did he actually say I fucked up?
No, he didn't.
Oh, okay.
No, he didn't.
I was wondering, has it been sanitized in translation? Because that obviously happens. We only know that, though, because Beck told Gershom Schlem, who put it in a letter in 1963, so it's third hand. But Beck believed it because he reconciled with him, and Schlem believed it too because of the strength of it. On the strength of it, rather, he accepted an invitation to Aranos, right, the conference circle around Jung, and that's the entire apology. Yeah, 2 words in private.
No public apology whatsoever.
Never said anything in public, which is so problematic, given how verbal. Anyway, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a Jungian analyst, which I think is hilarious, called Andrew Samuels, who's a professor at Essex and no enemy of Jung's at all, if any, quite the...
Wait, what? He's a professor of ethics and he's not anti-Jung? How does that work?
He's a professor at Essex University.
Oh, I thought you said a professor of ethics, and I was like, well, how on earth is he reconciling that? Okay.
But he asked an even harder question, whether the 1934 sentences were actually really an accident, because Jung's Psychology of Nations says that people have distinct collective souls, Aryan, Jewish, Germanic, and so forth. And if that's your theory, then sentences about what the Jew can and cannot create aren't necessarily a departure from the system. They're the system being used, right? So the theory already thought in these groups and these group essences. So when a regime came along that needed these group essences, he had them ready, right?
Right.
So... which is probably why he was embraced by the Nazis, because they love that sort of shit, don't they?
Yeah.
Now, Samuels is quite explicit that he isn't calling Jung a Nazi. That's not his claim. But there was definitely some sympathy there, without a doubt. And the thing is, after the war, he had one big idea left.
Right.
And it's one of these ideas that the wellness world loves the most, which is synchronicity. And the claim is that some coincidences are meaningful, that there's a connecting principle in the world that doesn't run through cause and effect. And his showpiece example, obviously his own telling again.
Oh, I know.
Is the scarab.
I
right?
knew that was...
Yeah. So a patient is recounting her dream of a golden scarab, and there's tapping at the window, so he opens it, and in flies a rose chafer around, which is basically, it looks like a scarab, right? But it's the closest thing Switzerland has to a scarab. And he hands it to her and says, "Here is your scarab." And he offered that as evidence of a principle of nature.
One beetle that isn't actually the beetle that was in the dream at all. Wasn't gold. Wasn't a scarab.
But you know what? It looked like a scarab, and it knocked on the window, and you know.
And I will shoehorn this beetle into my theory to make this it fit. It's like Cinderella's. It's like the ugly sisters with Cinderella's slippers. I will get my fucking foot in that slipper.
But here's the thing: so many Jungian fanboys and Jungian therapists and theorists and all of these bullshit people cite this as evidence of synchronicity working. You know, nobody counts the consultations where someone told him a dream and nothing tapped on the window.
Right. I was going to say, surely the standard is you prove it wrong before you prove it right.
Well, it's the whole habit of keeping, you know, something that lands and hits and then ignoring the 10,000 misses, right?
Don't. It drives me up the goddamn wall.
It's the entire mechanism of the idea.
My whole podcast that I've got going at the moment, I'm talking about RSD and why it's not a thing. And I know I'm going to enrage people because they want it to fit so badly, but actually it's more empowering to think if it doesn't. No. And anyway, it just is, the whole...
There's a lot of confirmation bias where that's concerned.
This
and a lot
is exactly
of
it. Mentality. Well, it means I don't have to do anything about it if I can blame it on a dysphoric experience rather than... Anyway. The
thing is, he did try and prove it properly. The 1952 book that he published jointly with Wolfgang Pauli, who was a Nobel-winning physicist, by the way, leans on Ryan's ESP card experiments.
Oh, my God.
But it also contains an astrological study that Jung ran himself, you know? So hundreds of married couples had their horoscopes checked for the traditional marriage aspects, and he conceded himself that the numbers might be chance. No shit, Sherlock.
What the Barnum statements are maybe just accidentally landing with people?
Oh,
wow.
We'll get to that. But the thing is, people still wave that book around as quantum physics validating synchronicity. And it doesn't. Like, it just doesn't. Pauli's essay is about Kepler. There's no version of synchronicity that makes a prediction.
Right.
You know? Nothing it forbids. So there's nothing it explains. There's nothing it explains.
Right.
Like it's bullshit.
I mean, it is bullshit. I mean, this is the same man who wired patients to a galvanometer because he wanted a physical measurement that he could trust.
Yeah.
And he's ended up, you know, offering a beetle and a stack of horoscopes as evidence.
Horoscopes. In science.
As evidence about the structure of reality. Like,
right. But the archetypes thing, right? And the collective unconscious, they all have exactly the same problem. No definitions that you can work with. No way to measure one, and nothing you could ever disprove.
That is so problematic. Sorry,
it's hugely problematic. You know,
Jesus.
People always say that Popper showed Freud and Jung were unfalsifiable, and actually, that's not true. Popper named Freud and Adler, but the same charge fits the archetypes perfectly. you know. And the thing is, the cross-cultural parallels that Jung pointed to, the same symbols supposedly that were surfacing everywhere, have really boring explanations in behavioral science and psychology.
Oh, go on, give us one.
Stories travel.
Right. That's it.
That's it. Stories travel. Environments are shared. You know, it's like Gen X having the same childhood no matter where they were in the world.
Right. Oh my God.
The world was smaller. Remember, we didn't have algorithms. We didn't have individual social media feeding us individual algorithms. So we all watched the same TV channels on the same day and the same night.
At the same time.
At the same time. There was a small amount of magazines, so we all read the same magazines.
You and I had an amazing little nostalgic trip down memory lane about Just 17 and Pick and Mix and all those things, because we all did the same. It was routine for everyone.
But that has nothing to do with everybody being the same thing.
Right.
It's just environments are shared, you know, and human brains are built alike.
Exactly.
You know?
But people don't like that, do they? They don't like the idea that they might be the same as everyone else. They have to be special and INFJs and whatever it is, you know. There's a Jungian analyst called Christian Rosler, and he's a professor at Freiburg and Basel, and even he has written a book saying that the classical theory just can't be saved, that archetypes as inherited images don't survive what we know about genetics, which, you know, that's not an outside, that's coming, the call is coming from inside the house. That is like one of their own saying, hey, this is bullshit. But it's the same
story with dreams.
Right.
You know? Right. Jung said that dreams compensate, right? They balance whatever your waking attitude is doing. And 50 years of dream research says they mostly track waking life instead. So Bill Domhoff, who has basically spent his entire career analyzing dream content, said that the findings don't support any of the ideas about dreams that are specifically Freudian or Jungian.
Wow.
So even the sympathetic Jungian researchers concede that their own data fits continuity better.
Wow. You know, and the system is just as unfalsifiable inside the consulting room, right?
Okay.
Because if the reading fits you, it's confirmed. And if it doesn't fit, you're in denial. Or your shadow is resisting it. You know, so there's no answer a patient can give that the analyst can't absorb. And that is a dangerous thing.
It's like any of these guru things, you know, these get rich quick things, for example, the MLM. So, you know, if it works, it's the system. If it doesn't, it's you not trying hard enough.
That's
you're not
religion,
enough. You're
stop.
Not passionate enough. It is totally religion, full stop. That's prayers, full stop. Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, it's just a cyclical delusion, confirmation bias, isn't it? You know, disregard, dissonance and bias all have confirmation at the same, you know, anyway. I've got to be fair, because there is outcome data on the therapy. German and Swiss studies that, you know, where people in Jungian analysis improve and stay improved at 6 years. But it's all naturalistic. There isn't a single randomized trial in it. So the flagship study had no control group, and the one published review was written by a Jungian analyst. So what it actually shows is that long-term therapy with a decent therapist helps people, which is pretty much true of every decent therapy.
Right.
I mean, that's just...
The thing is, therapies that look completely different keep producing roughly the same results, right? So it's called the common factors finding. And it's exactly where we ended up with Freud. Nothing in the data shows that Jungian ingredients do anything at all. You know, nothing in the do anything at all. Right. So let's talk about the afterlife, right? It actually started with a reader, somebody who was reading. So the Psychological Types came out in English in 1923. And an American woman called Catherine Briggs read it.
Right.
You may You may recognize the name. And she became a devotee. So she corresponded with Jung. Now, her daughter, Isabel Myers, had... Yes.
Sorry, your pronunciation of what I would say, how I would say Briggs was not what I thought, because then I was like, oh my God. Okay, so Myers, her daughter Myers.
Yeah, so Isabel Myers. Now, she had a degree in political science, and she wrote mystery novels. And between them, with no training in psychology whatsoever, and none in the measurement of any kind of personality or behavior, they built a sorting questionnaire out of Jung's book. And that became the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI. So the 4-letter type that everyone knows from work are their machinery, not his, right? So... And the J and the P scale has absolutely no basis in Jung at all. They made that up themselves.
And what the... Okay. Did he know what they were doing with it or no?
We know what he thought of the underlying idea, because he said it on film in an interview in 1957. And he actually said there's no such thing as a pure extrovert or a pure introvert. Such a man would be in a lunatic asylum.
There is no such thing as a pure extrovert or a pure introvert. Such a man would be the lunatic asylum.
So there you have, the person who is supposedly the founder of this idea saying on camera quite categorically that nobody is actually a type.
Right.
So there's also a recorded line of his about American uses of his typology. And he said, God preserve me from my friends.
God may protect me against my friends.
And which is basically like, these people are raging lunatics, which I suppose is quite something, considering he himself was a raging lunatic. So, a
Takes
lunatic,
one to know one, maybe.
Calling out the other members of the asylum is quite ironic, really. But anyway, when a doctoral student wanted his cooperation for research that was built on this instrument, this Myers-Briggs personality type instrument, he refused it. He said no.
Wow.
Now, there is a letter, in 1950, a complimentary letter about the work that the type indicators were doing went out with Jung's signature on it. And it's the only endorsement that has ever existed for this MBTI. But the documentary evidence strongly suggests that Jung never actually wrote the letter himself, and he probably never even read it. His secretary, who was called Marie-Jeanne Smith, drafted this sort of correspondence herself for him and then just gave it to him to sign.
Right.
As would be perfectly normal.
Yeah, normal. Yeah.
That assistants would do it. And, so there's a strong possibility that she just put it in front of them and he signed it, Yeah. The phrase that does survive is without more than a glance, which basically means, so, when you would sign a letter, you would put WMG, which meant without more than a glance. So I've glossed over it, but I haven't read it in its entirety.
Right.
So the entire chain of legitimacy for MBTI, from the 4 letters on someone's desk back to the great Swiss psychiatrist Jung, basically is centered, its foundation is on this one complimentary letter that we don't even think he read.
Oh my God. Well, I'm quite glad to hear that.
Well, it doesn't exonerate him from being a lunatic.
However. No, but at least he wasn't backing Myers-Briggs.
No, he wasn't.
At least his ego wasn't getting all like, look at what I can do.
No. That we know for sure. And the related story to all of this is that Isabel Myers consulted Jung about the test just before his death, but it doesn't check out. That actually doesn't check out. The correspondence record actually contradicts it. Because she said, if you're to listen or look at Myers-Briggs, and certainly Catherine Briggs and Isabel Myers in particular, they used him as authority foundation for their bullshit.
Like social proof in the videos and stuff.
Right, exactly
use,
that.
yeah.
But I mean, it just wasn't true. So why did MBTI conquer the world? Well, I mean, first, I suppose the descriptions feel accurate, don't they?
Well, it's Barnum, isn't it? Barnum's statement.
Well, yeah. Actually, Barnum came along later. We actually call these Forer statements. Right?
Yes, because he was actually the one that established it, wasn't he? Rather than Barnum.
Right.
So
Barnum's statements are the, shall we say, the social.
Okay, got you. Yes.
Title that we give it, but actually they're called Forer statements, named after a psychologist called Bertram Forer. So in 1949, he gave 39 students a personality test and then handed every one of them the same sketch, right? But it was assembled out of an astrology book. And he asked them to rate its accuracy for them personally. So basically, he took this astrology book, horoscopes, took all of these statements out, gave exactly the same statement to every student, and asked them to rate how accurate the personality test was. And on average, it was 4.26 out of 5.
Jesus.
Now, everybody had the same text. And that's what we now call the Barnum effect. Right. It replicates every time somebody runs it. So when we have these Forer statements, which basically anybody can relate to, we have the Barnum effect. It's exactly why people believe in horoscopes. Because you can read whatever you want into them. The thing is, every time we replicate Forer statements and the Barnum effect, it replicates perfectly.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It's one of those things that replicates perfectly. The thing, though, is that you're using flattering statements that are hedged very carefully. The words in a Barnum statement or a Forer statement are very carefully constructed.
Right.
So much so that they fit anyone, which is exactly how MBTI descriptions are written.
So can I just ask...
nothing more than Forer statements.
So can I ask a quick question then?
Yeah.
About is it also exploiting confirmation bias at the same time? Because if I read a horoscope that says you've had a stressful week or a stressful month and now you're going to be going into steadier times, all I'm going to think about are the stressful times I've had, right? So it's right. And so there's a confirmation bias because, I have had stressful. There's a confirmation
bias. So there's all sorts of cognitive biases there that you're going to read into. You also have to remember humans don't like gaps, so we love to retrofit. So when we read something that says, something along the lines of, you don't like to make decisions without a lot of information, but sometimes you can be impulsive.
That was exactly what the example in my brain was. That's so funny.
That's a perfect Barnum statement or Forer statement, because every single person can relate to that. Yeah. And even the most impulsive person on the planet will still retrofit and think of themselves as somebody who doesn't like to make rash decisions.
Yes, because they also don't want to be it's seen as a character positive, isn't it? To make considered, and our self-delusion means that we align with that. We all want to believe we're good. We all want to believe we're better than we are and whatever, don't we?
And then there are two more things that hold this MBTI bullshit in place. People prefer feedback that confirms what they already believe about themselves. Because remember, you are literally telling this test what you think of yourself.
Right.
And that test is then regurgitating that out to you, literally repeating back what you've said, but they've just done it with nice little colours and letters and stuff like that. So being confirmed feels safer than being corrected. You
Right.
will never see any of these personality tests that say, you know what, you're actually a really shit person.
No.
And you need to work on yourself.
No.
So, people are essentialists, aren't they? We
Right.
treat categories as if they have some hidden essences inside them. So
Right.
a 4-letter code doesn't feel like a score so much on a questionnaire. It feels like, self-awareness and finding out what you are and who you are, because we love to categorize ourselves.
Right. Absolutely.
Because we also love to use it as an excuse for bad behavior.
Well, there is that too. Can't help it. Can't help it because you can.
I'm red.
Then put some things in place to stop it. But underneath all that, the typology, there's also that bigger offer, isn't there? Which is Jung's own idea of individuation, that you're on a journey towards becoming your true whole self, integrating your shadow. I know, meeting the figures inside you, right? So you're no longer an individual. You all of a sudden you're all these different parts, and you've got to integrate. So instead of being this bundle of habits and a temperament that you're largely born with, it does get molded by your environment. You get,
of course it does.
There is a nature nurture thing. There is no debate around nature nurture for me. It's both.
No,
it's just it's
there
both.
is. I mean, there's still debate around it, but we can see from a behaviorist point of view, we can observe that nurture can impact behavior.
Right. Of course. So the thing is, people, you get to be a hero halfway through a quest, don't you? And nobody's ever wanted to be a bundle of habits when they could be on this quest or journey instead, could they? Do they?
Yeah, I know. I mean, the evidenced version of this is actually very bleak. So here's your trait profile. It's fairly stable. It was substantially set early, and it predicts a fair amount about your life. Fine, that's all true. And nobody's arguing with that. But the measurement underneath that and underneath the test is dreadful. The scores don't come out as, two camps of introverts and extroverts. They come out as one bell curve, so that the type boundary runs straight through the middle.
Right.
Where most people actually sit, which is why in the type, this MBTI community zone journal, half the people who retook the test within 5 weeks came out with a different type.
Truly. And I wish people understood.
The people.
If you do a personality test and 50% of the people that take it get a different result the next time they take it, it is not a personality test. It's a
because your
Barnum
personality
statement.
doesn't change in 5 weeks.
No.
Nor do your traits.
No.
So that's bullshit. And when you map the scales of the bullshit into the big 5, which is the model personality test that research actually uses, the missing factors in the bullshit is neuroticism, which is the best clinical predictor of the whole field, right? So the American National Research Council looked at it in 1991 and found insufficient evidence to justify using it for careers advice.
Wow.
Which is wild because so many companies use it as that.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
It's ridiculous. It's actually the
so
main
bad.
thing it's used for.
Right.
Actually, the main thing it's used for.
Which is actually outrageous, isn't it, really? And none of it.
It's hideous.
Right.
It's astonishingly terrible.
It's so... Oh, God, it's so irresponsible. And none of it can kill it because too many people are invested. No, you've got a sunk cost fallacy thing going on, right? Because everyone loves it. And we can't
But not just that, we love to label ourselves.
Right. Right.
There are people on LinkedIn who put it on their headline.
And on dating apps. Who I cannot tell you how many people got swiped left so quickly because they had those 4 letters in their profile. Get off. Go away. Oh my
Somebody
God.
asked me this, are you certified MBTI assessor?
And I said, triggered.
No.
Are they alive still? Are they okay?
No, I'm not.
Do we know where they are?
I'm not certified.
Is there a missing persons thing going? Apart from anything else, it costs between $1,700 and $3,000 for this is the worst bit, and this is like going to trigger you as much as the hypnotherapy thing does. 4 days. 4 days.
Fabulous. Wonderful.
No clinical
like
background, right? Yeah. No clinical
2 days
background
to
required.
become an NLP master.
Right. Insights are doing the exact same thing, by the way. They're becoming like this weird cult thing as well, which is like listening to people talk about it. It's like Slimming World, you know, it becomes this. But anyway, to be MBTI certified, you don't need any clinical background in any way. And then the practitioners themselves charge thousands a day running workshops with it. You know, and the company has claimed use in 88 of the Fortune 500 companies, right?
No, 88 of the Fortune 100.
Sorry, 100.
That's
sorry,
wild.
Yes, 100.
Even worse.
Which is worse, right, than
500.
500. So there are thousands and thousands of people whose professional credential is the system, and the Jung story underneath the brand is their asset, and people defend their assets massively, hugely.
Massively. MBTI are very litigious, very litigious.
Oh God, we're going to get sued.
You know,
fun,
when
we're
the
going to get sued.
criticisms get put to the company, the standard answer is that the MBTI and the Big Five are different theories with different use cases. Yes, they are. One is based in science, one is bullshit.
It's just bullshit.
Anyway.
Bullshit. Right.
That takes the product out of the evidence game entirely.
Right.
It can't be wrong because it's not claiming to be right in any way that you could test. So you couldn't test an archetype either, and you can't test a type.
Right.
So,
oh my God, it's just,
you know, the name is there essentially to do what evidence can't or won't do.
Yeah. I mean, well, in October 1959, the BBC interviewed him for Face to Face, and John Freeman asked him whether he believed in God. And Jung paused and said, "I don't need to believe, I know."
And did you believe in God?
I don't need to believe. I know.
I know, but I think they took him out of context.
Well, the line went everywhere, and it's just never stopped. And what travels with that is that is that he spent letters afterwards walking back by like what he had meant by "I know," right? As in, because actually it doesn't even answer it anyway. I don't think he was being
absolute and saying "I know that God exists," as in I'm an arrogant prick who knows everything. I think it was more to do with my faith is quite strong. You know.
Well, he might have been saying the other way around, mightn't he?
He may have been saying it the other way around. I don't believe I know, which could also be taken as I know that the magical man in the sky is not real. You know?
So we could argue that Jung didn't believe in God and blah, blah.
Yes, you can argue both ways.
Right. Well, he died.
I mean, he did believe in God, but...
Okay. Well,
we do know that, especially given his upbringing with the church on both sides.
Well, yeah, it's brainwashed, you see. His shadow self.
Yes. Because didn't he see angels and shit as well?
Oh, he saw. I mean, this man was on a planet. Anything that suited him to back and bolster his stories and his theories and his hypotheses. He
didn't actually die long after that interview.
No, it was 2 years in home in Kuznakt. He was a Kuznakt. I can't. We did this. We were talking off earlier, weren't we? And anyway, this is common theme. But he was 85 when he died. Which is quite old, really.
He lived to be quite a good old age, didn't he?
Yeah.
The thing is, one of his most shared quotes on the internet is, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate."
I quite like that. Oh.
But he never wrote that. He never actually said that.
That's hilarious.
It actually appears nowhere in his collected works, and nobody has ever produced a citation for it, you know.
So why do we all think it did?
Well, the sentence got boiled down from a book, actually. It's in a book called Ion, and it says, when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. Which is more conditional and much, well, isn't as catchy on a mug or one of these things on Instagram, you know? Some of the good ones are real, though. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. He said that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, he was in a letter from 1916, which of course puts it right in the middle of the years he spent talking to Philemon, his imaginary friends, right? So some of the things he said were fine. What really fascinates me about both Jung and Freud is they both started off as real empirical scientists. Very obsessed with the evidence of things, and both turned into batshit cray lunatics.
I mean, yeah, it's fascinating to me who's done the complete opposite of being.
You have done the complete opposite. We were just talking about that this morning, weren't we?
We were. It's so interesting, isn't it, really, to see that I was somebody who absolutely didn't go for the evidence, didn't look, and I hold my hands up with quite a lot of shame. I mean, you've sent me to stand in the corner this morning when I told you something.
Absolutely. I mean, I have, you know. It's like when your book came out and you sent me a copy, and you were like, did you read it? And I'm like, well, I read the first few pages of it and then I stopped.
I would do so many different things now. Like, I would say so much differently, that there would be so many different, but there it is, you know. But I still think, you know, it does help. The book does help people. And
yes, the book does help people, and the ideas are fine.
Right. It's the colloquialisms that I use, yes, and rather than the accurate language.
And I know that there is an argument for people to say, well, you know, colloquialisms make it easier to understand. And my pushback to that is then you're doing people a discredit by assuming they're stupid.
You're not only that, but then also the subjective understanding of each of these things. So if I talk about, and careful not for triggering, but rejection sensitivity dysphoria, the use of the word dysphoria makes it an inherent, unchangeable thing. It also sounds clinical, medical, and all that thing.
Clinical and sciencey and
evidenced and a you know, entry in the ICD or the DSM.
Right.
But it is not any of those things. And actually, it's not. There's no agreed definition by what that is meant, what is meant by RSD. There is rejection sensitivity because it's thought the original work was rejection sensitivity, but someone went and put dysphoria on it. And now everyone thinks rejection sensitivity is dysphoria.
It's a real thing, part of ADHD.
Right, but most people do not understand what dysphoria is, and they don't understand that that is a clinical brain wiring that you cannot change. Whereas rejection sensitivity, you really can change, and I am literally living proof of that. Like, aren't I?
There's change it,
you know, huge difference.
It's a learnt behaviour,
right? It's a protective mechanism.
It is a protective mechanism. But I also think that people, again, this is my problem with it.
They want to label.
People label it, but they also use it as a weapon.
Oh,
so
you can't give me feedback.
I reacted in this way. You can't tell me hard news or difficult news or tell me I'm shit or bad at my job or whatever because of my RSD.
Right. It's a get out of jail free card. That doesn't work for me. I don't.
Right. And you will have many people who will push back against, oh, well, I've got it, I live it. Okay?
Oh, I've heard it.
Just because you live something doesn't make it a clinical reality.
And I am not disputing the fact that there is a sensitivity to rejection, because if you grow up ADHD, autistic, anything of these, you will have been corrected multiple thousands and thousands of times more.
And of course, you become very sensitive to that sort of rejection.
Yeah, of course.
And, you know...
It triggers shame and difference and all of those
behavior
things.
Then is a defense mechanism that is learnt, that becomes inherent in your in your personality and behavioral makeup that is embedded like any other behavior, which can be changed.
Right. Like the fawn response. I mean, there's so
Don't
many.
even get me started.
I mean, well, they can just go and listen to my podcast and then they'll be fine, because that's all on there about why the fawn response isn't real and all that stuff. So don't worry. It is real, but it's not a primary trauma response.
We do fawn. It is real, but it's not part of this fight, flight, freeze fawn.
And we have literal evidence that proves this. This is not we're arguing against evidence that hasn't been proven. This is we know fight, flight, freeze is triggered, and the prefrontal cortex, the rest of the brain has no idea that it's been triggered or why. And it just goes because there's a threat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas fawn doesn't do that.
It's a decision. It's not triggered.
Yeah. And it may be out of your awareness and your consciousness, but actually one of the greatest things is that now you know this, you can unlearn it and you can stop it and you can become aware of it and you can stop.
But you can't stop a freeze response, no matter how hard you try.
No matter how hard.
You can't stop
fight or flight
or flight response, no matter how hard you try.
No.
Your brain takes over and does what it needs to protect you.
Right.
That's not what happens in a fawn response.
Can I just ask one final question about trauma responses?
Yeah.
Because I was speaking with someone on the hub the other day, and they had confused flight with dissociation, or freeze with dissociation. And I can see why they did, but those initial trauma responses, they don't last very long, do they?
No.
They're very short-lived to get you out.
They're very short-lived. They're just there to save you in the moment.
Right.
Which is why if the flight mode kicks in, adrenaline rushes through the body to give you that extra speed and give you the longevity and give you that burst of movement.
Painkiller.
And painkillers so that you're able to keep moving. But once you're, 50 yards away or 100 yards away, the adrenaline leaves your body because it can't sustain, and therefore the flight response ends.
Right.
Dissociation doesn't end like that.
No. And this is how you can differentiate.
I can see why they would think they were part and parcel. But the flight response or the fight response or whatever, this is a protective mechanism of the body for the brain, for the body to take action.
It's an immediate response to a survival threat. Yes. Physical or emotional. Your brain doesn't really differentiate between the physical and emotional threat, does it?
Your brain doesn't differentiate at all. The idea of your brain doesn't differentiate between the idea of you thinking there is a person behind that wall with a gun and there actually being a person behind that wall with a gun. Right. The behavioral response is the same.
Yes. And this is what people need to understand, because also this is where your brain filling in gaps, i.e. there's a wall and that must mean there's a man behind it with a gun, is your brain filling in the gap, because our brain also goes to the worst case scenario. And
now, let me ask you, if we're in this situation where you're in a dark room and you hear a creak and you've now decided that there's a man behind the wall with a gun, are you going to start fawning?
No, I freeze. And then I try and flight, or I try, but I probably actually freeze and then think, what the fuck do I do? What the fuck do I do? I've got to get out of here. And then very quietly, now, if I was in flight, I wouldn't care about noise. I would just get out. Whereas freeze,
you would just get out. Exactly.
See how my brain would react correctly with the freeze rather than fawn.
Right.
Or
but you still wouldn't
flight
fawn.
And fight. No.
You would only start fawning when the threat is in front of you and you are immobile and can't protect yourself.
Right. So if they walk in, no, please don't shoot me. Don't shoot me. Yeah. But if I think they're there, and then, absolutely. Yeah.
So, to answer your question now, they're not the same thing. But I can see why.
It was not that. It was the brevity of the initial trauma response is it's short. That is what differentiates them massively. So if you don't know, as somebody who's experiencing it, whether it's a fight, flight, freeze response or dissociation response or something else, and fawn responses last for a long time.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Whereas
Yes.
fight, flight, freeze, done as soon as you're safe. Out.
Fawn can last for years.
Well, but in a scenario where, like, say you and I were together and I felt like you were in a mood with me and I started trying to fawn over you. First of all, I know you would just tell me to stop and have lots of time, not lots of times, maybe 3 times.
My flight mode would kick in, or my fight mode would kick in.
No, your fight.
One or the other.
It's your fight. You go, what are you doing? Why are you fawning over me? Well, you think you annoyed me by saying this, but you blah, blah, blah. Now you're trying to make it better. And I'm like, yes. And like, well, stop it. You don't need to. It's fine. It's hilarious. But if that bit didn't exist, my fawning of you over this particular instant would last for days, potentially.
Oh, yes.
You
potentially.
know,
Very
if
much
not
so.
longer.
Until you got confirmation that the situation was no longer a threat.
Right, until I was reassured that you weren't pissed off and that I could trust that. But and that's, I mean, look, we could go on for hours about this, so let's not.
We could. It's actually quite a fascinating topic.
It is. Maybe we'll do that next, actually. That's what we should do next, because I think people would be interested.
Might do it on a live.
Oh, we haven't done a live for ages. Should we do one on Thursday?
No,
but this will come out. You're away.
Somewhere.
Well, we'll schedule one for soon. We have to do one soon. Yeah, traveling life. Wow. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Oh, hypes. Paul likes your hypes, don't you?
I do like the hypes, yes. I don't know what they do, but I do enjoy them.
No, he just likes, I never even see that we get them. It's hilarious.
All right.
Brilliant. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.